Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and this week on The Stacks, we're doing something a little different. In light of the recent wave of book bannings all across America, I felt it was really important to spotlight what's going on. I have been really upset over everything I'm reading and hearing about, and so I wanted to take the time to address it on the podcast. Every single day this week, Monday through Friday, I'm talking to different people impacted by book bannings. My guests will range from educators and students to booksellers, politicians, and authors. Things have been moving really quickly in the book banning arena, and in an effort to be timely with our coverage of book bannings, we put together this whole mini series in about a week. These 5 days of coverage is not comprehensive, but instead a way to highlight more voices and to remind us all what is at stake. Throughout the week, you'll also hear from some of my favorite authors and thinkers about their favorite banned books. Everything we talk about on today's episode can be found in the link in the show notes. I also want to say, if you like what you hear, if you appreciate the work that I'm doing to create The Stacks every single week, please join the Stacks Pack on Patreon. The Stacks is a completely independent podcast, so without the support of listeners like you, there really is no show. You will get perks like our virtual book club and bonus episodes, and also you'll get to rest easy knowing your contribution makes The Stacks possible. So to join us, head to patreon.com/thestacks. All right, now let's get to today's episode all about the banning of books. All right, everybody, we are back for more conversations around banned books. I am joined today by a very special guest, Timya Wright, who is a student in Mississippi in high school. And Timya has graciously agreed to speak to us today about their experiences with banning and everything. So Timya, welcome to The Stacks.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just so happy that we're able to chat. So I know that you're in high school now, so I'm sure this isn't maybe the most important thing going on in your life. I'm sure you have like much more interesting friend drama, but we won't get into that part today. So can you just tell me a little bit about sort of what you think about this wave of book bannings? Is it something you've been thinking about regularly, talking about with your friends, anything like that?
With book banning, we don't really have the issue in Mississippi, but I read up on it and I don't like how they ban the books because it keeps other people's voice out. What's going on with sexuality, the race. In school, we're mostly learning about like the slavery of like World War II. We don't learn about life issues. So I feel like they shouldn't ban books for people voices and so other people can learn about each other more and we wouldn't have much commotion going on with violence because there's a lot of violence in the world. We wouldn't be attacking each other and white people and black people race, we would most likely get more along with each other if we understood each other more often.
Yeah. Can you think of any books that you've read in school where you felt like you learned a lot about people that were different from you that has like stuck with you?
In school, I haven't really read many books because the books I read was mostly like the drama type books because those are only interesting books you can get out of the library. But over the summer with Mr. Woods, I have read a book called Long Division. It has sexuality in there.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me because he was confused about what he was. He didn't really know if he liked it on this man, the boy. So it was very much confusing with him.
Yeah.
So
like around his
reading-
sexuality, right?
Yeah, around his sexuality, and it did have a little bit of race in it about a white man, and it was very much, he said that it was very much uncomfortable for him. So with racism, I don't like how people would go around going at white people because they really don't understand about the past issue. People continue to grow on to the past of what happened in slavery days. People have fought for us today to read books, and by people banning books, that's keeping us from actually learning and fighting for what we want in life.
Yeah, that's so true. Also, I love Long Division. It's one of my favorite books. It's so good, right? It's funny.
Yes, it's funny. Very funny.
Really
I liked
funny.
the first part of it.
Yeah, me too. Me, all things considered. Have you ever, like seen the books that are being banned and ever sought any of those out, like to go try and find them to read them? Or are you sort of just, not interested in what's being banned to read it?
I'm interested in what's being banned to read. I just haven't really seen many books in Hattiesburg that have been banned
Mm,
because it's issues at school with people's sexuality. It is, but we don't really get into books like that. We stay away. We ain't really invested in those type of books. Most kids now we're on social media about things that aren't really real. Just we attacked each other on social media. Nobody's really
mm,
into books.
I
That's
see.
why I want to be an author so I can bring those type of people into the world, get people off social media and let them learn the lessons in life. They're dealing with depression. They probably ban books about people who are depressed.
Mm-hmm.
People put those in books so kids won't feel alone. I don't want people feeling alone in the world. So
Yeah.
that's why being an author and or continue to write things about that will help a lot with kids in the next generation after us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love what you're saying that, the things are in the book so that the young people don't feel alone. I think that's so interesting that you're picking up on that because so many authors that I've talked to have told me almost that exactly, like that they write the books so that other people, specifically young people, don't feel alone. If you, let's just say where you are, they started banning books, how would you want your parents or your teachers or your guardians or the adults around you to talk to you about what was going on? Like, how would you want it to be brought up to you?
I would want them to like actually sit down, like sit me down
Hmm.
or like come to school. I want the school to take control also. The school don't take control of many things
Hmm.
in Mississippi, so I would want it to be like us like a parent thing and for the school and for the community to come together to sit us down to talk about those type of books so it wouldn't really become an issue.
Hmm. Hmm. And do you feel like what the books that are being banned, the books that have to do with the LGBTQ community, the books that have to do with racism and the Holocaust, do you feel like that's the sort of stuff that you want to be reading? Like, what are the books that you want to read about?
I want those to be the type of books I do read because being a 16-year-old, it's a lot of things we don't know. We have to grow
Mm,
up learning from my parents and not learning from other people's perspective and hearing other people's voices. So we look up to one person and sometimes that one person might be the wrong person. We hang around wrong crowds. And so me wanting to read those type of books, I would want to feel like not so distracted by the things that are going on in my real life. I want
mhm,
to learn about other people's life as well.
mm, mm. How do you feel knowing that there's all these adults fighting about what you can and cannot handle that you've never met?
It's kind of like they keeping us from the real world. I don't like
Mm,
how it just always they trying to control us. Yes, y'all have lived a life, but we need to start learning it from ourselves so we can grow into those adults and actually know how to teach our kids the same thing. And controlling is just we understand that there are parents. We understand that they don't want their child to go out there and get hurt.
mm.
But it's like if y'all want us to grow, we have to also kind of grow out in the world and independently grow and fall down and pick ourselves up. Because
Right.
it's like we understand that y'all are just being protective parents.
Right. You hear that, parents? You're just being protective, but you got to let your kids go do things. I have kids, but they're very young, so I don't know what it's like yet. But I imagine that you're right, that it's coming from a place of like wanting to protect young people. I spoke to a high school teacher in New Orleans, and she was saying when she asked her students what they wanted to read about, they told her they wanted to read about relationships. They wanted to read about how to love other people, how to be in a relationship. And I'm just wondering, like, if you were going to pick one book to read in school, what would you want it to be about? What would you want to learn in school?
I would mostly want to learn about suicidal
Interesting.
because there's a lot of kids who go through it
Hmm.
and it shouldn't happen that much. It shouldn't happen at all because it's not right for kids to go around the world just harming themselves by the things that happens to them. Just like with the relationship, people get down about that and we don't know how to handle that. So we just go straight to suicidal and depression.
Mm,
That's the type of books I want to read to help people like, because if you're reading something, you can actually learn from it and how you can use it to handle those type of things.
Yeah. Have you ever read any good books that talk about suicide?
I read like one or two. I just don't remember the name of it, but I mostly find my books from watching movies. I mostly find my
Mm.
inspiration from watching movies also, because it was like this one movie called The Cyberbullying. One of her friends liked her, but she didn't know how to tell her, so she went behind her back and made this fake account, and
Oh.
it hurted her friend very much,
Mm-hmm.
and she started doing mean things to her friends. So by her doing that, it really hurted her, and she really liked this boy, so she couldn't know how to handle it, so she went straight to suicidal. She didn't know
Oh.
who to go to. She didn't know who to talk to, and it really hurted the parent to see their child like that also. So that was one of the things that inspired me to also want to read more books about suicidal and get into it.
Yeah. The movie's called The Cyberbully.
hmm
I gotta
It's
check
it's
that out.
free on YouTube. You can
Oh,
watch it on YouTube
okay.
anytime.
See, you're a different generation than me. Us old people, we don't watch movies on YouTube as much. I gotta go. I gotta get in with what you guys are up to because I'm old and washed for sure. I know that you read books in school. I know that like that's part of the curriculum, but do you get any free time to read books on your own?
Yeah, I get free time to read books on my own. It's not really with Harrisburg Public School District. We have a lot of free time to do things as long as we get our work done.
Got
So
it.
they don't keep us from the library. They don't keep us from doing things. We can have free time to read. We have opportunities to go in the library and get books that we can find that's interesting to us. If it's not a banned book, we can
Right.
watch it. We can read it.
Right.
So
What do you read in your free time? Can you think of any books you've really liked that you've read in your free time?
I mostly only read books from Mr. Woods. I don't go in the library like that. I just
Uh,
read books from Mr. Woods. So besides Long Division, I'm gonna start trying to read the Black Book.
oh,
And
Black Buck. Love that book.
um I'm trying to
Oh, you
I
pulling
read
out the whole
this
stack.
one.
Oh, Shallow Waters. Awesome. Did you like that?
I liked it very much. It really spoke to me.
Yeah.
So I was very interested in those two books.
Yeah.
But my favorite one that he has gave me was Long Division. That was
Long,
one of my favorite.
Long
And
Division's so good. Yeah.
that was
I
one of
love
my favorite. I reread it every time I do get the chance.
Oh, I love that. Well, once you read Black Buck, just a shameless plug on my part, we have a whole episode with the author on the podcast. So you can go back and listen. He's very cool, Mateo. Anyways, okay, well, let me kind of wrap up with you. I don't want to take too much more of your time. For people who are in places where books are being banned, what do you think what do you think adults could be doing to support the students?
I think the adults can like maybe try to get the kids to come together also to fight for the
Mm,
books.
hmm.
Like I feel like they should do that, and also adults should try to take control of what they're and talk for their kids' voices, so the kids can also have a voice for themselves about what books they should read. Like nobody can control what they should and should not read
Mm,
because they probably confused about every so much things. So the parents should also take control, not just the students sit around and just complain about what books don't we are not able to read. We should
yeah,
also have the voice to do that. So
yeah.
parents should take control in that situation.
And what should the young people do? What should the students do to fight against the book bans?
I feel like the best way is to get books, read a lot of books, and like come together and get books that are banned and start just reading them, like reading verses like from the book, because that
Mm.
would be a good thing. And you might get in trouble for it, but it's like a good thing you can do, even though
Good
you
trouble,
might get
good
in.
trouble.
Yeah, you might get in some good trouble for it, but if it works, you'll probably have a 50% chance of you being able to read books that you want to read instead of the books that keeps us from the real world and hearing other people's voices.
Yeah. So for people who are listening at home, Mr. Woods, you might know from Instagram as a Black man reading Achille Nazuri, who is also a bookstagrammer and he is a teacher and a very smart guy. He's got a podcast as well called Books Are Pop Culture. And he's my dear friend and he helped set up this interview. And it's actually taking place right now in a classroom, which is so cool. I've never done an interview in a classroom, so I love that. But has Mr. Woods ever had you read any Toni Morrison?
No, ma'am.
Not yet? Okay.
Not yet.
You tell him he needs to get you on some Toni Morrison. I feel like you really like it.
She said you need to get me on some Toni Morrison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're going to get some of that in here. Yeah.
Okay, well, so my last question for you, Timya, is what is your favorite banned book?
My favorite banned book? Shadow Waters is my favorite because I'm more like, I'm not the teenager who is just watch movies that's always about violence. I like movies about mermaids.
Okay.
So when I had read that book, I was like, okay, it's a mermaid in here, and it excited me, and I got very much like I got into it, and heavy also.
Oh, heavy.
I have read this one too.
So
he
good.
gave me this book, and I have read it, and that's like the second favorite out of those two.
Yeah.
But Shadow Waters, I really was invested in it because I love mermaids.
Yeah.
They might not be real, but to me, it's real. So I really just
listen. You can love a mermaid. Okay, don't let anybody tell you not to love a mermaid. What's not to love about a mermaid? I love a mermaid. I sometimes I'll tell you a funny story. Sometimes when I'm in the bath, I'll lay all the way down and then let my hair sway side to side like I'm the Little Mermaid. Because in the movie The Little Mermaid, Ariel, her hair like goes in the bottom of the ocean. Anyways, so my point is love a mermaid. Timya, this was so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and share your thoughts about what's going on. It's really nice to be able to talk to someone who's in the classroom right now. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again to Timya Wright and to Jared Woods for helping to coordinate this interview. After the break, we're going to hear from Azar Nafisi about her experiences in Iran and what she has learned from living under a totalitarian regime with regards to banning books and culture.
Rebecca Carroll, The Bluest Eye. It is the single most beautiful, nuanced, and emotionally rigorous depiction of what it means to be a Black girl in America.
This is R. Eric Thomas, and my favorite banned book is Beloved by Toni Morrison.
Hi, my name is Aro Kwan, and I'm the author of The Incendiaries. And a banned book that has been much on my mind lately is The Magnificent Heavy by Kiese Lehman. If you haven't read that yet, I so strongly and enthusiastically recommend that you do, and that you buy it for your kids, and you buy it for your kids' friends.
Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books, duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind-the-scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the Stacks. All right, everyone. We are continuing our conversation about banned books today, and our guest today is Azar Nafisi. She is the author of a book that has been translated and is so well known and beloved called Reading Lolita in Tehran, and she has a brand new book coming out in March called Reading Dangerously, which is all about sort of the banning of books. So Azar, welcome to the Stacks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled to get a chance to talk to you as someone you grew up in Iran, and you are someone who's lived in a place where books were banned. And I feel like so much of the conversation here in America is, what might happen to us? And I'd love to hear your perspective as someone who has lived under a totalitarian regime where books were outlawed. So I guess maybe do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your experiences, and then we'll sort of dive in.
Sure. One thing about what's going to happen to us, it depends upon us and
Yes.
how we're going to react to what is happening around us. Now, I was born in Iran and was sent away to England and later went to United States to continue my education. And my timing is very bad, so I went back to Iran right on the eve of the Islamic Revolution, where everything changed. And the first targets of any dictatorial mindset, including the totalitarian or the theocratic ones, are women, minorities, and culture.
Right.
And the books are one of the first things that they attack. And they attack through, in Iran, they attack through censorship, through jailing writers, even killing them. Of course, everyone is familiar with the fatwa against Salman Rushdie by the Ayatollah Khomeini. So I take any indication of censorship very seriously.
You started off by saying what will happen depends on us. What do we do? What is the thing that we're supposed to do to tip the scales back in our favor away from this?
Well, the mindset behind censorship is one that negates knowledge, doesn't want to know, wants to remain in ignorance. And the reason for it is that books and knowledge, art, literature, imaginative knowledge, as well as other kinds, are all detrimental to are dangerous to such a mindset. Because as opposed to elimination, which is what censorship does, it eliminates those it deems dangerous or threatening. Rather than elimination, it's an investigation. Both science and literature are not after the known, but the unknown. And the basis for knowledge is curiosity. You want to know what you don't know. You want to experience not just yourself and those who agree with you and who are part of you, but those whom you don't know, those whom you want to investigate in order to know. So literature is the imaginative way of investigation. Science is the natural one. It goes after the natural world. Literature is that of the heart and the mind. And that is very dangerous to totalitarian mindsets.
And why do you think that the fiction is more dangerous?
Well, fiction, I'm talking here about mindsets. The totalitarian mindset is the exact opposite of fiction. It wants to impose one voice upon all voices. Now, a great writer, what they do to begin with is to give voice to all the characters in a book. Even the villain gets a chance to talk.
Right.
So fiction by nature, structurally, is democratic because it goes after multivocality. It goes after many perceptions of the world. And fiction is always about the other. We write and we read because we want to discover that other. And we discover first through curiosity, second through empathy. because empathy makes us realize not how different we are, although we are, and we celebrate difference, but also simultaneously how alike we are. It reveals to us our common humanity. And all of these things that I said is exact opposite of the mentality behind censorship that goes after extermination and elimination and is worried about multiplicity of voices. It is always worried about the other, about anyone or any idea that is strange to them or that is alien.
Do you feel like, as someone, you've immigrated to America, you've lived outside of Iran, do you feel like people hear you? Do you feel like people are listening to you? Or do you think that they think we're not going to be like that? We're a democracy. Like, do you feel like people push back on your warnings?
Well, when I first came to America, actually at the end of reading Lolita, I had asked the question about the West, that quoting Saul Bellow, and I'm just saying this from memory, I had asked those who survived the ordeal of Holocaust, how will they survive the ordeal of freedom? Because I feel that freedom is an ordeal. You have to nourish it and guard it every single day. You can't just rely on what others have achieved for us. I mean, for heaven's sake, it's only a century since women got their rights to vote in this country.
Right.
So all of these rights have been fought for and they need to be nurtured. And I felt that we had become too complacent in this country. We preferred comfort, intellectual comfort, to probing and to ambiguity, to all the things that great literature demand of us. And I was very worried. The past few years, things have changed because of the crisis brought on by you-know-who. And the way that we have been living these past 4 or 5 years have made some people, at least, more aware that if we don't fight for our rights, no one is going to guarantee that they will be there tomorrow. And there is nowhere in the world that is immune from totalitarian mindsets. I just want to remind people that at the heart of European civilization last century, we had communism and fascism. We had slavery in this country. So it's something that had happened before, it can happen again.
Yeah. And it will happen again.
It will happen again if we don't stand up to it.
Yeah. I love that idea of nurturing freedom. I think for me, what's sticking out when you said that, it reminded me so much of voting rights in this country, and Black people getting the right to vote in the 1960s, and us already being back in a place where our voting right protections are being taken away. And I think, the way that so often it's framed in America is we are fighting for this right? Like it's a fight for this right. But I sort of like the idea of more of it's a nurturing, that we have to constantly be treating it like we would a child, that it's a tender thing that needs to be taken care of. And yes, you fight for your children, you fight for the future, but also you tend to it. You do what you can do in every moment to make sure that it has what it needs to continue to grow and blossom.
That is so beautiful, tending for your children, that kind of tenderness that is needed for anything that is worth living for.
Right. Because fight runs out, right? The fight, that fire, that can run out. And it does. And that's, I think, oftentimes when, the quote unquote bad guys take over. It's when people have run out of the fight, or they have gotten exhausted from it, or it's been extinguished. But if you think of it as more of a nurturing, I don't think there is a limit to how much we can nurture the things that are important to us.
Actually, what you say is so right about fiction, because fiction is based not on judgment, but on understanding. Even if you want to defeat an enemy, you have to know him. in order to stand up to him. So understanding brings with it tolerance, brings with it empathy, brings with it tenderness. And that is what is missing in our society today, that kind of understanding which makes us celebrate our common humanity.
What do you say to the people who say, okay, so a book gets banned in a school, but we live in 2022 and kids have access to the internet. And is there really anything that is banned or that they can't have access to? What do you say to that kind of devil's advocate energy?
Well, the whole point is not just that a book is banned and we can have access to it in other ways. It is the obscenity of censorship that is at stake. It is not just taking Toni Morrison off the shelves. It means that we accept this segregation. We accept this extermination of those we call enemy.
Right. So it's not, to you, it's not about any one book. It's just about the idea of banning any book, period.
Yes. Yeah. It is the idea of banning any book.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking a lot about the book Mouse by Art Spiegelman that has been banned in, I believe, Tennessee. And I think a lot about how I don't believe I've ever seen that Mein Kampf has been banned, you know? And I think that it's just such an interesting counterpoint. Like no one's talking about the fact that there are books that espouse the hatred that led to the Holocaust, and yet talking about the experiences of those who lived through it, that is a problem.
And, they brought as an excuse for banning Mouse that it shows a naked mouse.
Yeah.
The obscenity of not getting the point that this mouse, representing the Jews at that time, were stripped naked in order to be prepared for the gas chambers.
Right.
And to not want our children to know that, bringing the excuse of sex, of the, as if they're talking about pornography. It is so in itself obscene.
Right. I've been thinking again about this book. I'm Jewish. My family is Jewish. And I was about, I think, 8 or 9 the first time I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. And I remember being, my mom didn't let me go in every room, right? Like there were some places where she was like, you don't need to see these images as, a grade school student. But I remember going and I remember seeing it. And in reading Maus now, I think about how even that book, which has been so pivotal for so many people to understand the experiences of the Holocaust, it already is tamped down in the sense that they're mice, right? It already is making it more accessible to young people, which is fantastic. But the idea that this book is too much when it's not even the full picture of what happened, right? They are mice because it's easier to take it in as mice than it is to take it in as humans. Right. And that has been something that's been sort of eating away at me a little bit, because I think one of the things that I come back to as a Black woman, as a Jewish woman, as a woman in America, is that a lot of the things that are being banned or being challenged are things that I have experienced or my family has experienced, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't too uncomfortable, for my family members to be enslaved, but somehow it's too uncomfortable for you to have your children read about it 100 and whatever years later. So I think about that a lot too.
That is exactly how I feel. And, what they are against, in essence, is knowledge.
Right.
And the reason we send our children to school and later to college is knowledge. And the fact that we need to know for many reasons, but 2 reasons come to my mind right now. One is the fact that we need to know so that we won't repeat the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And second is that we too are responsible for what happened. And we are responsible to keep the memories
Mm-hmm.
of those who were exterminated, bring them back to life through these stories. And Frank is one story, Mouse is another.
Right.
We need to reach out to our young people through different means, and to object to a naked mouse is really outrageous,
Right.
to say the least.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about your book, Reading Lolita in Tehran, because it is, it's a classic book. People have read it the world over. And I sort of would love for you to explain how you decided to write this story, how you decided to share it, and why it was important for you to share your experiences.
Well, it goes back to Iran, actually. I wanted to write about Nabokov, about how reading him changed my perception of reality in Iran, and how my perception of reality in Iran changed the way I read him. But I soon realized in Iran that I won't be able to do that. And not just I won't be able to talk about the politics of it, but I won't be able to talk about my personal life. Because I wanted to begin that book by saying the first book I read by Nabokov was Ada. My boyfriend Ted gave it to me, and I couldn't do that. I would be called a slut and a whore if I wrote that kind of a book. So I did two things. One, I experimented by writing a novel, not a novel, a book that was simply literary criticism about Nabokov, but I wanted it to be on another level, a criticism of totalitarian mindsets. I wrote that in Persian. It was later translated into English. But the second thing I did, I opened a segment in my diary, and on top of it, I wrote things I have been silent about. And I started recording all the things that we did underground, the absurdity of it, like going to concerts in Iran, having parties in Iran, and reading Lolita in Tehran. So that was how the idea started in Iran. When I came back to United States, one thing that horrified me was the way people looked at Iran and at what they called the Muslim world. They only looked at it through the eyes of the extremists, and they would call it our culture, while Islam, like Christianity, like Judaism, like all other religions, has its extremes, but it also, the majority of Muslim people are like the rest of us. They're just decent people wanting to live their lives,
Right. I hate that you even have to say that, but unfortunately you do, which is just
Yes. So I thought I'm going to write my book now for two reasons. One, because I have a voice now, which I didn't have when I was in Iran. And secondly, I wanted to show the world that the Iranian people are also so involved in the world, at the risk of being jailed and harassed and flogged. They read the forbidden books that comes from there, and they can talk about them even better than some of their peers here in this country. I wanted to show them that we need to be interested in one another. We can't just listen to the news and go by what the politicians say and say, this is Iran. Because they in Iran didn't do that. They looked at America through the eyes of its golden ambassadors, its films, its art, its music, its literature. So that is what we should do about the rest of the world as well.
Your new book, Reading Dangerously, can you tell the folks about it? It's out in March, and I'd love for you to be able to share sort of what this new project is.
Well, this new book started with the idea for it started around 2016, when I was becoming really nervous and angry and outrageous about the way things were going.
And
I remember 2016 well.
you remember it well. It was
Yes.
a watershed, you know. And
Yeah, exactly.
and I was starting to write letters to everyone, you know, in my diary, including Mr. Trump. And at some point, I decided that my anger is not doing any good. And whenever that happens, I know that I have to write. And I wanted to write about this polarization that we have in our country today. The fact that we cannot talk to one another anymore, understand one another anymore, that it is all elimination, a constant interrogation and elimination. And so then I wanted to write it in the letter form. I didn't want it to be an essay. I wanted it to be more intimate. And finally, going through a process, I started writing 5 letters to my father about the works of fiction, which were focused on turbulent times, to show why fiction is so important when we live in times of crisis. So that is how it all started.
I'm very excited to read this book. I'm
Thank
very, very
you.
excited. In reading Lolita in Tehran, you're reading Nabokov and Fitzgerald and a bunch of, you know, quote unquote Western classics, I guess is what you would label them as, with your students. And what do you think about people doing these sort of radical book clubs, or, you know, I don't know. I think, what do you call them? Subversive book clubs, book group. Is that what I think that's what you called it?
You took it out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, that is exactly what I feel right now.
That people should be doing that?
Yes, definitely.
How can they do it? How can they implement it? Like, what would you tell them to do? What did you do? What's the toolkit? What's the guide?
Well, first of all, I think the process will show us the guide. But I think in schools especially, we need subversive book groups that will read everything that they are told not to read. And with an open mind. The worst thing we can do with a book is to read a book because it talks about us and it confirms what we want it to confirm. We should be like Alice, run after that white rabbit out of curiosity and jump down that hole without asking what that hole will bring for you. And that wonderland then will respond to you. We can create a center for these subversive groups online. That is my mission now after this book.
Is to create an online community for folks to implement them in their own spaces. Yes. I love that. Well, please let me know how I can help. I'm interested. I just have a few more quick questions for you. One of them is we've sort of been talking about this, but if you could distill down, what do you wish more people understood about the banning of books?
Well, I want people to, sometimes people dismiss books, especially in this country. Indifference is one way. You ban books and prevent them from being alive. One other way of doing it is indifference, through not paying attention to them. And so what I want to see more is to understand that imagination, it is not just reading this book or that book or escaping from reality. Imaginative knowledge is a way of perceiving the world, relating to the world, and changing the world. Through reading great books, we gain a new perspective on life. We talked about voting at the beginning of this session. How can anyone vote fairly without having knowledge of one's own history and culture and the history and culture of other people?
Okay, here's my last question for you. What is your personal favorite banned book?
I am so
promiscuous when it comes to books. I always say that. I never know what to say. Well, Mouse actually is one of my favorite banned books. I wrote about Toni Morrison's Bluest Eye in my new book, and that one is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It goes so deep into the question of racism and sexism.
Yeah.
I love that book.
It's an incredible book. It's an incredible book. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been such a delightful experience for me and conversation to get to talk with you, even though unfortunately the subject is horrible. But I appreciate your time and your work and your warning. And I am heeding it. I'm listening. And I hope that other folks are as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I love this conversation. It gives me hope.
Yay. Thank you. And everyone else, we will see you in the stacks. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you to today's guests for joining me. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts and join The Stacks Pack on Patreon at patreon.com/The Stacks. Remember that The Stacks book club pick for February is I Live a Life Like Yours by Jan Gru, and we will be discussing the book on the podcast on Wednesday, February 23rd with Tessa Miller. I want to say a huge, huge thank you to Kiese Lehman, Sam Pinkleton, Andrew Russell, Cree Miles, Joseph Papa, Taryn Roeder, and Jackson Musker for helping me make this week possible. I also want to say an even bigger thank you to our editor, Christian Duenas, for working quadruple time to make this week possible. Everything you heard in today's episode can be found in the link in the show notes. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram and at The Stacks Pod _ on Twitter, and check out our website, thestackspodcast.com. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Takirajis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.